In today's episode, Joe and the flexible working application. I had a question about junk fees. Mortgage lender condescendingly told me don't sign it then instead of answering the questions. So I didn't. Now he's calling begging because he personally lost $9,000 and lost $20,000 for his company. You want me on light duty, low hazard work because I failed the same urinalysis test that I have failed the last 7 years for the exact same reason, and that I told you I would beforehand? Okay. So let's get started. Joe and the flexible working application. I used to work in an organization that employed around 6,500 people. It was a great place that did its best to value its employees. It had a really great flexible working scheme where they did their best to accommodate everyone's wishes, providing you had a legitimate reason for requesting that shift pattern, as opposed to the one that applied for your department. I was a supervisor in a department of about 300 to 350 staff providing 24/7 cover for customer contact. We get paid an additional 30% on top of our already decent salary for working this pattern. I had about 20 direct reports. One of those was a lad called Joe, not his real name. According to his friends, Joe was a good mate. According to his family, a saint. But I was neither of those things. I was his boss. Joe was a bit of a dick. Now, another of the team, let's call her Sandra, had recently been granted a flexible working scheme that allowed her to have every weekend off. She was the envy of the team because our shift pattern had us working 4/6 weekends. Enter Joe. Joe is a bit of a football fan. AMD by a bit, I mean I'm pretty sure he would sacrifice his firstborn to give his team a better shot at winning the league. Nothing wrong with having a passion though, right? Joe and his family have apparently been season ticket holders for their club for many years. Now Joe is fairly new to our department, but he's settling in. Performance-wise he's a little below average. He requests every weekend off during the football season, but is denied. We already have the maximum number of staff permitted off on those days. Joe, better luck next year. See if someone will swap a shift with you so you can go. And that, I thought, was the end of it. But no. Joe needs those Saturdays off. The team will lose without him. They're drunkenly shouting them on. The sacrifice of his child will have been in vain. Joe finds out about Sandra's flexible working scheme. Now what the rest of the team don't know is that Sandra's dad used to look after her kids on the weekend, and he's been diagnosed with cancer and can't manage that anymore. So naturally work are doing everything they can to support her. Sandra has asked that her colleagues are not told about this, and she has been telling them she outstressed due to workload down as the reason on her application. So Joe approaches me and says, "Hey, Mr. Bossman, I want to put a flexible working application in, exactly the same as Sandra's. I'm struggling with stress and a workload." Are you really, Joe? Are you really? I take Joe aside and double-check with him that this application has nothing to do with the football matches he's been complaining about for the last 3 months. No? You're certain? He swears on the grave of his still-living mother. Nice lady, we met once. Smelled like apples. Well, Joe, I say if it was, I think putting a flexible working application in under improved work-life balance and allowing me to pursue a hobby I am passionate about would be more successful. But bossman, I'm not guaranteed to have it approved if I say that. Sandra got hers through saying stress and workload. She didn't. They'll approve mine too, it's guaranteed. Joe, ideally think you should reconsider. Nope. You have to put down what Ib say. This is my reason. We discussed this round and round for a whole 90 minutes. I aged 3 decades. Joe eventually states he will put a complaint in about me if I don't put the application in. They had to be signed by managers to say we had discussed them with the employee. I give up. Joe's application goes in, exactly as he wants it. By this point he's burned through mine and the team's goodwill. But what Joe doesn't know is that I've supported staff who have genuinely been struggling before. I know what comes next. Joe gets a meeting with HR who refer him to a stress counselor to assess. Joe apparently plays it up to the counselor thinking it's part of the process. The counselor decides that our role is having too much of an adverse effect on Joe's mental health and states he needs transferring to another department. The only vacancies at the time were for a department paid a lower rate, who still worked 4/6 weekends. Joe quit 2 months later after complaining every single day about being moved. I had a question about junk fees. Mortgage lender condescendingly told me don't sign it then instead of answering the questions. So I didn't. Now he's calling begging because he personally lost $9,000 and lost $20,000 for his company. I'm currently trying to buy a house and was given the loan agreement with the fee sheet and all that. They were overpriced by around $6,000 more than all their competitors. I originally was dealing with one guy who was nice. Turns out he's not the one that does the loans. It's another guy who is the biggest douchebag. I didn't like him from the first time I spoke to him because he asked me for a number to call for my employment and I said, who are you going to call? So I can give him that number. And he tells me, whoever picks up the phone. Yeah, no shit. Anyways, he wants me to pay him $9,000 cash and a lending fee up front. Most places add it on to the loan, so you pay it over the life of the loan, and it only adds about $20 onto your monthly payment, which makes a lot more sense than having to pay this one guy $9,000 cash plus another $11,000 to his company for paperwork and stuff. I called him about the fees, and that wasn't even the one I was questioning. I was questioning a $200 credit report. They're usually around $30, at most $80. I said I'm not going to pay $200 for a credit report. So he said, yeah, I could be $30, it could be $80, it could be $200, I don't know, so I have to estimate high. I said I'm not going to sign something that says I agree to pay $200 for a credit report. In a scoffing D***ck head voice he said, don't sign it then. Obviously I'm not signing it, and that's why I'm calling you, because if I don't sign it we can't do the loan. So I just said okay. And we got off the phone. I immediately start getting calls from the owner of the place, who was the original one I dealt with, saying, OMG, what happened? I was next to him and heard the whole thing. No, he didn't mean it like that, and I hear him in the background trying to explain himself. Anyways, I got another guy to do it within minutes of getting off the phone with them. He is wonderful and sweet, and nothing like that, and I love it, and I don't have to pay him $9,000 up front, so my total costs will be less than half of the other people, and he's nice. The other place is still harassing me because I dropped the deal with them, and they're begging me to sign the papers. Anyways, now they owe me my $5,000 deposit, and I can't wait to send them the cancellation of contract and have them give it back to me. You want me on light duty, low hazard work because I failed the same urinalysis test that I have failed the last 7 years for the exact same reason, and that I told you I would beforehand? Okay. Not totally sure if this is the best subreddit for this story, but it's the only one that comes to mind. First off, let me explain. I have been prescribed 20 to 25 milligrams Adderall XR for going on 10 years now, so will always test positive for amphetamines. I told the safety guy at work beforehand that I would fail and why. For the last 3 years. Never been an issue, especially because I am not working for the DOT side of the company, just the repair and maintenance department for the cans. Quick note, I currently and previously worked at this company off and on. Had to leave the first time to finish building/repairing the roof of my house, the second was due to a certain pain in the A*S virus. The job entails building and repairing dumpsters, referred to as cans, from the little 2-yarders, the ones that typically get flung around and crushed like tin cans in movies, up to the massive 40-yarders, which are basically removable dump truck beds, and typically used for road and construction debris. Anyway, so on to the story. I remember it like it was yesterday, mainly because it was. I got a phone call on Tuesday of last week at 7:23 p.m. from the testing lab about the results of my pre-employment drug screening test. At the time, I was helping my mom clean up after dinner, so didn't get the call. I called the number left in the message as soon as I got back to my phone, not even 20 minutes after the call. Please call back within our normal business hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., or leave a message about your inquiry. WUT. So I leave a message and ask them to call me back as soon as possible. The next day. Lunch rolls around at noon with no phone call. Okay. Bit annoying, but whatever. Call the testing center, and they say that the doctor who called isn't available, so I leave a message for him and am told to check back later. I relay this to my manager/shop foreman, and he is just as confused as I am. My manager then calls up the safety guy and asks him what to do in a case like this. Now, I don't know what the safety guy's deal is, but he doesn't like my manager much, and he doesn't really like me either. So he puts me on low risk, light duty because of the failed test. Apparently it's less likely to injure myself or others with a high-pressure paint gun and a razor blade and a cheap handle to scrape the old stickers and paint off of rusty and jagged cans, than it is to wear a full set of protective welding gear, while not moving more than a few feet at a time. At this point of the day, there was only 2.5 hours left in the workday, with only 3 cans left in the shop. One was already painted, and just needed the company and size stuck on it. The other 2 needed a not insignificant amount of work. One had one of the pockets that are used to pick the can up with the truck was practically torn off, the other's front was caved in pretty significantly. So what did I do? I complied with Danger Dude's demands, and only scraped and applied new stickers. And took 2.5 hours. To apply only 2 stickers, and remove 3. All the while complaining about how dangerous the razor blades were/are, much to the amusement of my 2 coworkers and manager. And I will be doing this until the testing center finally get back to me again. The best, most ironic part? In the past 5 to 6 years of welding/fabricobbling, I've only been burned or cut exactly twice. Using one of the razors, I get 2 to 3 cuts or whack my hand off of something every single sticker. Update: the lab finally got back to me, and has asked for proof of prescription. Unfortunately, the most recent bottle's label was tossed out in Florida to transport tiny seashells from the beach. Thankfully, I still have the paperwork that came along with the prescription when I had it filled back in March. I'm still gonna drag ass until further notice or told otherwise. My manager/foreman came to the can shop specifically to avoid the intercompany politics, but here we are. I hate drama, but it follows me everywhere. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.